Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to build this simple wooden chair, also called a Viking chair, out of one 5-foot 2x8 that costs around $10.
Okay, to build this, what you're going to need is one 5-foot 2x8. We're going to need something to cut with, a circular saw, a jigsaw. If all you have is a jigsaw, you can do everything with just the jigsaw. We're going to need a drill with about a 1/2-inch drill bit. A square is going to make things easier. And we need a tape measure and pencil. Just so that you can see this up closer, we have a 5-foot long 2x8, which means it is 7 1/4 inches wide by 5 foot long. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut this 2x8 in half. It's currently 5 foot long, so we are going to measure and mark 30 inches, which is 2.5 feet. And we are going to cut this at 2.5 feet. So I've got my line drawn. I'm going to use my circular saw to cut this. If you don't feel comfortable using a circular saw, you can use a jigsaw. You can do all the cuts for this project using a jigsaw. A circular saw is just a little bit quicker. So I've got my line drawn and I'm going to make this cut. Now that we have our two pieces cut at 30 inch, which is 2.5 feet, we can take one piece and set it off to the side. When building this chair, it's two pieces. So we are going to start by making this piece first, and I'm going to show you all the dimensions to put onto your board so that we can build this. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, grab our tape measure. We're going to make a line at 9 inches. And then if you have a square, come across and transfer that line directly across like that. So we measured up 9 inches. The next thing that we want to do is take our tape measure, hook it onto the side. We're going to make a mark at 1 inch where it meets that line, and then come down to the bottom. We'll make another mark at 1 inch. And then we are going to do the exact same thing on this other side. Hook onto the side, make a mark at 1 inch, and then we're going to come down to the bottom, hook onto the side, and make another mark at 1 inch. Now, you want to grab something that is straight, like a level. I'm going to put the level on that mark at 1 inch at the top and at the bottom. And I'm going to take my pencil and connect those two marks just like that. And I'll do the exact same thing here. So I'm just drawing a straight line on those two marks I made at 1 inch. So I'll bring the camera in and show you guys exactly what this looks like. Okay, so as you can see, if I hook a tape measure onto the board, I made a mark at 9 inches and I drew that line straight across. These other lines, I made a mark at 1 inch at the top, at the bottom, and I just connected those lines on both sides. So that's what it looks like right now. Now I'm going to cut up from the bottom along this mark at 1 inch, and I'm going to cut all the way to our line at 9 inches, and then we're going to cut the sides. So to do that, I'm going to use my circular saw. Like I said, you can do all this with a jigsaw as well.
When making this cut, I'm using the blade to fully remove that pencil line, so I'm cutting directly on the pencil line. And then after I made the long vertical cut at 1 inch, I'm just using my jigsaw to finish off the other cut.
Here's a closer look at this. So we have our 9 inches, and then we cut across at that 1-inch line all the way down on both sides. All right, now that we've got this piece all cut, we can take it and set it off to the side, and then grab the second piece we cut at 2.5 foot. We are going to be making this next. So to do this, we have to cut a slot into this board. I'm going to show you guys all the dimensions for the slot, and I'm going to show you guys how to cut the slot. But basically, this slot is what allows the board that we just cut to slide in. So let's get to making it. Okay. We'll grab our tape measure, hook it onto the bottom, and we're going to make a mark at 9 inches. We're also going to make a second mark at 10 3/4 of an inch. And then grabbing our square, we will transfer that line across, transfer the line we marked at 9 inches, and then we'll go up and we'll transfer the line we made at 10 3/4 of an inch. So I'll show you guys exactly what this looks like now. Okay, just to show you, we hooked the tape measure on the bottom. We made one mark at 9 inches and a second mark at 10 3/4 inch, and we transfer those lines straight across. The next thing that we're going to do is hook our tape measure on the side in between those two marks that we just made, and we want to mark 7/8 of an inch. So I'll bring the camera in and show you guys that, but we're going to make a mark at 7/8 on the 9-inch line, and we're going to make a mark at 7/8 on the 10 3/4 line, and then we will do the exact same on the other side. So mark 7/8 on the bottom line, 7/8 on the top line, and then using something with a straight edge, we can connect those measurements that we made and draw a line straight across. Now that I've got the slot marked, let me show it to you guys. There it is. So this bottom line's at 9 inches, this top line's at 10 3/4 inch, and then these sides are 7/8 of an inch in. So as you can see, we've got it marked at 7/8. You can reference the tick on the tape measure where the line is. So 7/8 on both sides. And we are going to cut this slot out. So I'm going to place a couple X's on it, just so that nobody gets confused as to what we're cutting. To cut out this slot, we are going to need our drill with our 1/2-inch drill bit and our jigsaw. What I'm going to do, I'm going to drill a hole in the corner of this slot.
So I started by drilling in one corner, then I went to the next corner, and I'm drilling holes in all 4 corners. This makes it a lot easier to cut with the jigsaw.
Here's a look at what we just did. I drilled a hole in each corner of this slot. What that does, the holes allow me to stick my jigsaw blade down into them so that I can cut. Otherwise, you have no way of getting the blade on the jigsaw in. Now that we've got those holes drilled, let's take our jigsaw and cut it out.
When drilling those holes, it's really helpful if you get them nice and tight to the corners of the lines, and then when you're cutting with your jigsaw, try and cut directly on the line, and you should be able to remove all 4 sides.
As you can see, we've got the piece cut out for the slot. When you're cutting with a jigsaw, a lot of the time, instead of the blade cutting straight up and down, it cuts on an angle. So what you typically have to do is flip the board over, and you may have to just go around and clean up the cut so that that cut is nice and straight up and down.
After flipping it over, I'm just going around and making sure the cut is nice and straight with a jigsaw.
Now that we've got the slot cut out, this is what our 2 pieces should look like. And the next thing we want to do is test fit it. So the dimensions I gave you guys for the slot gives you about 1/8 of an inch of extra room, so that slot is a little bit bigger, which should allow the chair to slide together easily. You can make that slot tighter, but it just complicates things, as typically the wood kind of swells and warps a little bit over time, so it's nice to have a little bit more room there. But that's what our chair should look like. It should slide together quite easily. Now at this point, we have a fully functioning chair. As you can see, it works great, no issues. There's one other thing that I like to do. As you can see on this other chair that I've built, instead of having 90-degree corners, I've cut these on angles at the bottom and at the top. All this does is it makes the chair look a little bit cleaner, and cutting these angles on the seat is actually more comfortable when you're sitting on it. So I'm going to show you guys how to cut the angles on the seat and at the headrest. This is totally optional, so if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Okay, to cut the angles, let's take the chair apart and let's start with this piece. So what we want to do is we want to measure down 1.5 inches, across 1.5 inches, and then connect the marks and do that on both sides. So I'm going to come down 1.5 inches, make a mark. I'm going to come across 1.5 inches, make a mark, and then I am simply just going to connect those marks with a straight edge and do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, I'm going to measure down 1.5 inches, make a mark, measure across 1.5 inches, make a mark, and then connect those using a straight edge. Just to show you guys these triangles up a little bit closer, as you can see, I measured in 1.5 inches, I measured down 1.5 inches, and I connected the lines on both sides. Now we can cut these off that we just traced. Okay, so just like that, we've cut these angles, the triangles off on both sides. So now what we can do, we can grab our other piece that we cut the slot out of, and we can use this piece to trace it on. So simply lay the boards together so that the sides are flush, the top and the bottom, the sides are flush here, the top is flush, and then just grab your pencil, trace those angles on there, and we can cut them out. Just make sure that when you're putting the angles on, they are on the upper section. You do not want to mark this lower section of the slot. This is where the headrest will be. Okay, so this is what the two pieces look like. The chair should slide together easily, and you can sit on it no problem. It will easily hold the weight of an adult. It's a really comfortable, easy chair that's really lightweight. Now the last thing that you can do, this is optional. If you want, I'm going to show you guys a simple way that you can put a strap on the back so that it holds these together. So to do that, all you have to do is line the boards up so that the sides are flush and the top is flush, and then lay them down. Next, grab yourself some of this flat rope. Sometimes this is called webbing. You can buy it from any hardware store. All you need is approximately 1 foot. We want to screw it on to the slotted board right underneath these grooves. So we essentially want to put a loop like this to screw it on. I'm using 1-inch wood screws. You don't want to use anything over 1 inch as it could poke through. So 1 inch or shorter.
Make sure the two boards are aligned and then screw the piece of strapping in just underneath the notch. Make sure that you have it loose enough that you can slip a finger under, and then place a second screw in underneath the notch on the other side and trim off any extra rope.
This is how this should look. We have our screw into that webbing. We put it so it's flush with this little lip, looped it over, loose enough so that I can slide my finger under it, and then we screwed the other side down.
Another optional thing you can do is grab some of that webbing and place it into the slotted board in the side, and then make a loop that you can put your hand through and screw it down again, and this is going to be a carrying handle.
Just like that, we're all finished. We've got this so that there's a handle on the side so that you can easily carry it, and on the back we have the strap to hold them together. So you can simply lift it out, put it back through that strap. That holds them together so that you can easily carry it. And now to show you the chair in action, it just slides right through that slot. And like I showed, this is great for a child. It also works for an adult. It can easily hold my weight, 200 pounds. There's no issues with it breaking. So this is a quick, fun little project. You can build these even bigger if you'd like. As you can see, I've got this other chair here. I built this out of a 2x12. It's a little bit longer, but this is a really nice option for a child, or it's lighter if you don't want to carry such a big heavy chair around. Either or, they both work great. Thank you guys for watching. I have other videos on my YouTube channel, including how to build this bigger Viking chair. I've got tons of renovation content, tips and tricks, tool tips, yard work tips. If you guys could take the time to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, that would really help me. Drop a comment if you have any questions and I'll do my best to reply.